Hey,
Dan.
Frank.
Hey, Dan. How's it going?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing terrific, Dan. How are you doing?
Good. I'm good. I'm good. Yep.
All right. Good,
Yeah.
good,
Bringing
good.
it. Yeah. Yeah. Getting towards the end of the year. So.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yeah.
are. We are wrapping it up at John Reid and Associates. And for those of you who are just tuning in, whether on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, I would like for you to know that if you click the little button underneath our show description that says show more, you will see a link. And this link is going to have a direct link to our website where you can sign up and you can purchase a holiday voucher. What the holiday voucher is you can essentially purchase our seminars in 2026 at 2025 prices. So it's going to save you and your department some money. I just would like to bring that up very, very quickly before we dive
Good.
into our podcast episode here.
Good. Good.
All right.
Good deal. Yeah.
So, Dan, I wasn't exactly stumped for a question, but I did have a very
Really.
interesting
Okay.
question. Believe it or not,
Man, Frank.
I'm
It's.
getting to a part where it's hard to stump me now. So that's it.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I bet you I could, but we'll talk on another episode.
You
We'll
don't
deal with
count.
that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right.
And speaking of Stump Me, if you look on our show notes, you will see an email address. Just click the email address. If you have any kind of comments, concerns, or questions, especially questions, Dan
Hmm.
and myself, we are really interested in those, aren't we, Dan?
Yes, we are.
All right.
We'll address them as soon as we can.
That's right. And those questions are only going to add depth and breadth to this podcast. So, one of the questions that I had was from a student. I'm going to withhold some of the relevant details as to what branch of service he was in. So I'm going to put this question to Dan. Okay, so those of you who may be familiar with our work, with the Reid technique itself, we like to ask a series of behavioral provoking questions. And I believe that me and Dan, we covered this a little bit in episode 1 and 2, and we will be producing a future episode that's going to be more focused on when we get into the weeds of the actual interview itself. But
Hmm.
one of those questions, well, two of those questions, is what we like to ask a subject is, what's the reason for the interview here today, or what's your understanding as to why we are here talking today? And another one is a question that we call here at John Reid and Associates the History You question. This is essentially a way of asking the person, did you do it? So, with that being said, when we were closing out the class today, Dan, I had an interesting question. Are you ready for it?
I am.
All right. Our service member, and shout out to our active service and retired military folks out there. Thank you for your service. He asked me a question, and he says, Frank, part of my investigative duties for the military is to interview soldiers, airmen, and Marines and sailors who may have produced a positive drug test result on a urine analysis examination. And he said, due to the protocols and some of the restrictions that I have, and I don't want to get in too much of the weeds on this one, Dan, but he
Hmm.
essentially was asking me, how should I ask the person who I'm about to conduct an interview with, um, have you been ingesting any illegal narcotics within the past 30 days? He's limited as to being able to tell this other service member whether or not he tested positive on the urine examination or not. So we said, well, our protocol is to run an interview and just see if the person will reveal whether or not they've been ingesting illegal narcotics within
Hmm.
this time period in here. And he said, essentially, how do I formulate the question and get it ready to go before I go in for the interview? So, with that being said, I decided, you know what? I answered the question to the best of my ability, but in order to get a little bit more depth and maybe draw on Dan's experience, I wanted to put the question to you, Dan. How would you have answered our service member friend?
Well, one thing before I address that, does the individual know why they're there? Do they know why the investigator asked them to come in?
So, based on what he said, it sounds like the answer to it is yes and no. It sounds like it could be something where, hey, this person they're already on some kind of profile or performance improvement plan because of a past violation involving narcotics.
Hmm.
So, if they were called to come in and talk to this investigator, the investigator probably didn't tell them explicitly what the interview was about. But I'm willing to bet with all everything being equal, the service member probably at least has an idea on what it is because the interview would have been conducted a couple days after the urine analysis test was done.
The original one.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they're coming back after a
Hmm.
period of time. All right. Well, again, like we said, is that you want to always start out, do you know why I've asked to talk to you here today?
The
Here with
reason for
their
the interview.
explanation. Yeah. You're going to get two responses. One is, I have no idea why you've asked to talk to me. The second one would be, well, I had some problems, and let's address this issue. I had some problems on a prior drug test that I had taken. Now, the investigator then would say, and it's again important to preface this, you want to make sure that in no way you're accusing the individual. And we'll say to him is that, well, the purpose of our interview here is to determine if you have consumed any illegal drugs or narcotics within the last 30 days. So, and if you have, our investigation would indicate it. If you haven't, our investigation would indicate that as well. And I think that's an important part to throw in there, especially for people that are truthful. Not so much in this scenario that we're talking about, but when you ask the EU, you want to make sure that you're covering both sides. With the truthful, if you didn't do anything, our investigation is clearly going to show that. Puts them a little bit at ease. So before I begin, let me ask you, have you consumed any drugs, narcotics within the last 30 days? And I think one of the things that we got to be a little bit careful of right now will be with people kind of rationalizing a little bit, let's say with marijuana.
Hmm.
Marijuana being legal in many states and that, although I still believe in the military, it is not legal
Hmm.
to be
I think that's
smoking.
the
Yeah,
case. Yeah, I don't think they're
yeah,
allowed to blaze up. So,
yeah. So, but in other areas, you got to be a little bit careful. But if you consumed any illegal
hmm.
drugs, narcotics, marijuana within the last 30 days, and it's important that you, when you ask that question, you be direct, just like we are right now, but you
Hmm.
watch the individual. You watch to see how the response is going to be. Now, in this particular example, I think you said earlier that you believe that the investigator already has the results of the
Yes,
second
yes.
drug test,
Hmm.
and person failed that drug test.
Hmm.
So, as far as watching for deception, I don't think you really have to be too careful about that. But it would be a little bit interested to see
Hmm.
how that person is going to respond to that question. I mean, are they going to be, no, I haven't? Or are they kind of hesitant?
Hmm.
Or just, what do you mean about that? Just not answering the question
Hmm.
in that. So I think that's important that you look at to that particular area. I would still, even though you have the results of the drug test, I would still, even though we're talking about the U, go through the interview questions with the individual. I mean, the
Hmm.
interview there is not going to last you a long time because you do have the results already. But off the top of my head, I think some of the questions would be what we call in our interview the punishment question. If
Hmm.
someone is doing it after they've taken a prior drug test, what do you think should happen to that person? Under any circumstances, do you think if they have consumed any drugs within the last 30 days since their last drug test, do you think they would deserve any type of second chance or consideration? And especially the person says, well, yeah, follow that up. Absolutely follow that up with, well, under what circumstances may you give that person some consideration or a second chance? Just to see where their head is. Well, if they were truly sorry, if they promised it wouldn't happen again,
Hmm.
and that, and if somebody offered it to them, they just, took a hit of it, and that was it, just to be social or that tells me that person is not going to be difficult to get to acknowledge, that they have
Hmm.
consumed drugs within the last 30 days.
What's really amazing, and this is something that, was kind of illuminating to me when I started working for John Reid and Associates, Dan, was that, coming at it from a strictly law enforcement standard, the Reid
Hmm.
technique is pretty straight arrow. But what I've noticed is that one of the common factors are some of the non-strictly law enforcement people are under. Some of these administrative investigators, and I'm thinking of school investigators,
Hmm.
regulatory investigators, enforcement investigators. It seems like they have to operate under a different set of rules. Like they can
Yeah.
clearly have evidence of wrongdoing, like in the case of this drug test. But from what the military personnel was telling me, is that they were restricted in what they could reveal about the urine analysis test because the soldier was in a treatment program already. And the only way, and I'm not trying to say that they were out to
Hmm.
get him or anything, but the only way that they could make any disciplinary actions was if he admitted to them essentially what they already knew. So it's amazing how I don't know if bureaucratic red tape is a way for it,
Right.
but
Right. Well,
yeah.
either way,
Hmm.
they're not able to change it. I mean, it
Hmm.
is what it is. So we got to figure out ways that they can work within the guidelines that they have
That's
and
right. Yeah.
make it a little bit easier for them in that regard. But I think it even in not even in that particular example, but with law enforcement or any investigation, let's say someone that is not under that type of restriction where they can't reveal the results of the drug test, or um,
Hmm.
let's say they have evidence when they call this person in of committing the act.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, it's still important to hear how they respond to the you question, and because that sets the stage again for the rest of the
Good
interview.
point. Good point. Yes, it
And
does.
you especially want to continue with the interview. And a lot of times people will say, well, why do I need to interview when I got the evidence, whether it be a
Hmm.
video, DNA, and that? And it's important to hear what their side of the story is, and because that may lead to a
Exactly.
strategy that you can use in the interrogation.
That is right. Yes. Yes.
Because what I've seen from a lot of videos that have been posted about interrogations, the investigator has the incriminating information,
Hmm.
and they kind of start out that way, and it's going back and forth. The
Hmm.
person is either challenging some of the stuff that they're saying, or they're getting their story and going back and forth with questions. If it was me, I would want to, even though I have the evidence, I want to hear their side of the story.
Hmm.
And looking at that, then I'm going to be able to determine, okay, is there a possible theme that I could use with this individual, even though I got the evidence? They say they were out that night with their friends, or they
Good. Yeah.
weren't in the area, or that, and then maybe that may tell me maybe I'm going to develop a theme about
That's right. Yeah.
how somebody else talked you into it,
Hmm.
or you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
it was an act of desperation. But the interview is just going to help you make the interrogation go smoother, and
A
it
hundred
is going to
percent.
actually
Yes.
go quicker. Even
Hmm.
though you may think, well, I'm spending 15 minutes interviewing a person I already know did it, how is that going to
Yeah.
go quicker? Well, I guarantee you, if you haven't interviewed people and in the
Hmm.
past you've just interrogated them, it may have been, even though you had evidence, it's been a long, drawn out process. But if you go through
Hmm.
the interview, you're developing that rapport.
That's
You're
right.
getting,
Yeah.
again, possible things that you can blame as to why they may have done what they did.
I really like that, and it just kind of goes back to the fundamentals, like we were talking about in a couple podcast episodes ago.
Hmm.
Just always doing an interview before an interrogation, and you know what, Dan? I don't know. I just thought it was a really cool question. Like, hey, we're allowed to tell a person this, we're not allowed to tell a person this, and
Yeah, yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, and I think
And can
may yeah.
they, after they uh, ask them, have they did? Can they go into any type of an interrogation with them, or do they
So,
need to, or
yes,
that?
yes, he can. And so and I'm trying not to reveal too much of the
Right.
details because I think there was some confidentiality. That's
Sure.
why I'm saying the military in general. But
Hmm.
apparently, this this service member, once they enter into a drug treatment program, the command staff or the leadership are really tied with what they can do. And because of that, the service members kind of sandbagging and taking advantage of it, and really not taking advantage in a positive way of the
Right.
opportunity that's been given to him. And so he's just been kind of behaving in a way that's a little bit questionable. So what they were doing is this is affecting the unit morale a little bit. It's affecting everyone's performance around him. And so what he was essentially saying was that, look, at this time we can't show him the evidence that of the positive result because he's in the treatment program, right? And that can interfere with his treatment. But if he confesses to what he did, then that is him of his own volition, telling us he
Hmm.
was ingesting narcotics, and then that would open up the door to a disciplinary factor or an intervention that would probably be better, it sounds like, for the service member as well as his unit. So
Right.
uh,
Yeah. And
I
I think
asked
it's
for
a
a follow
yeah.
up too from
Yeah.
him as well, Dan. To see what
Okay.
else he's got.
Yeah. I because that would be important
Hmm.
in your theme development as far as just telling them is that once you complete the interview,
Hmm.
you know, based on everything we have, our investigation does indicate that you have
Hmm.
used some, or I'm using the word used. Sometimes how you phrase a word can make a big difference
Oh
because
yes, yes.
one of the things I do find, and we saw this before when we were doing screening for people for
Hmm.
jobs. If I ask you, Frank, have you used any dangerous drugs, narcotics, illegal drugs, narcotics within the last 12 months? The person would many times just say no.
Hmm.
But if you phrase it a little bit different, Frank, in the last 12 months, and I know a lot of times people just try different things, they experiment with different types of drugs. Sometimes, it's what we call peer pressure. They just try something because someone offered it to them and that. Frank, in the last 12 months, how many times do you think you've just tried any types of marijuana or narcotics in that? And if it is just marijuana, I think that's important that we would know that. What would you say would be the very most that you'd say you've tried in the last 12 months?
I
Could it
like
be,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes, you see
Hmm.
a hesitancy on the person's part, and then you follow that up. Well, Frank, let me ask you, could it be like, every single day that you're doing this? Oh,
Yeah,
no, no,
yeah.
no. Could it be, once a week? No, no. Once a month? No. Well, that little hesitancy, the little cough just told me that we're
Exactly.
getting
Yes,
close,
yes, yes. That's
and,
right.
and
Starting to
that.
kind of zero in on that. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
We
But
need to
sometimes,
have
again,
an,
it's just the
yeah.
word
Hmm.
try, not used in that. Just like when we do theft
Hmm.
investigations, we try not to use the word you stole the money, you
That's
stole
right.
this,
Yeah.
you took it,
Borrowed. I
you
like borrowed.
borrowed without
I love
permission.
borrowed. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So
That's my
sometimes how you
favorite.
phrase it can make it a little bit easier to get an admission in maybe in those areas.
Hmm. Okay, well, I really like that. And so let's take it back to our service member friend then. Let's
Yeah.
suppose that we're talking to him and our subject is going to be showing up in about an hour. Okay, so
Hmm.
what's the very first question we're going to advise our military friend to ask this person? The reason for the interview, right?
Right, and
Okay.
I believe with the military is that they may have to advise them of their rights.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, so I that would be before any questions are
Hmm.
asked. But then
Suitability, our baseline, we're getting all that, but
yeah, yeah.
uh, so how would you phrase the reason for the interview for our service member then? Do you think?
Well, I just say, do you
Hmm.
know why you're here? And if
There we
they
go. Do
say,
you know why you're here? Okay. All right.
well, yeah, it's about a problem I had on a
Hmm.
previous, probably about a problem I had on a previous
Hmm.
drug test. Okay. Um, Now, Dan, and then I would say, Dan, if you have consumed any drugs within the last, you said month, I believe.
30
That's
days.
the
Yeah.
30 days,
Hmm.
last 30 days. I think that's important that you tell me that. And that. So, Dan, let me just ask you, have you consumed any drugs within the
There we
last
go. Yeah.
30 days? And again, just see what their reaction's going to be. I mean, we're not expecting a person to say yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Although, on some
Hmm.
rare occasions, it does happen. I mean, I've taught a couple classes where people have gotten back to me. I remember one in course I did in Hawaii, where a fellow was asking an individual about committing two homicides. And he started out with the you question, saying, if
Hmm.
you did this, our investigation is going to indicate it. If you didn't do it, our investigation that will show that as
Hmm.
well. So let me ask you, are you responsible for these deaths? And he says he nearly
Mm.
fell off his
Yeah.
chair when
Yeah.
the person says,
Huh.
yeah, I did.
Mm.
And so, but it doesn't happen a lot, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, I got a confession from the history U question. How about that? Well, yeah, I
yeah,
did it.
yeah,
And what? Yeah.
yeah, right.
And then
But
you're staring at all of your questions and all, and your
it's like, well,
carefully
that
laid plan. It's
where do we go from here?
yeah.
And I hit it again on a sexually molesting a child. Another investigator, he says, Dan, I couldn't believe it. I called the person in. I said, if you did have
Mhm.
sexual contact with, let's say, Lisa, you should tell me that. So let me ask you, did you? And he goes, yeah, I did. And again, confesses to the whole thing, just like
Mhm.
that. But
Mhm.
if you don't ask it, you're not going to get anywhere
That's right.
with
That's
that.
right.
And
Yes. Yes.
so I think it's important, and it gives you an idea, especially in investigations where
Hmm.
that you may not know anything. Let's say you don't have evidence, and that you are doing an investigation trying to determine who's involved, who's not involved. This question really catches, I'd say, deceptive people really off guard, and in many areas, investigators really don't ask this question.
Hmm.
Um, we've taught homicide units where the feedback we got are, that's an interesting question.
That's
We
right.
don't
Yeah.
ask people that if they did it or not. And when you ask, well, why not? Well, we just assume they're going to say no. Well,
Mm.
they are, but it's important that you find out how their behavior reacts when
That's
when
right.
you're
Yes.
answering this.
Yes.
Are they direct, indirect? So
That's right. Yes. Well, Dan, I think our friend is going to be very, very well armed for the history U question. Reason for the interview question as well. I really love this real world feedback from the people who attend our seminars. I feel like we can
yeah, oh,
provide them some more
absolutely, yeah.
realistic feedback with that. Yes. And I would like to thank the folks who are sending me some questions to our email address. I'm currently filtering them down, and me and Dan we will be addressing them in future episodes. And if you are the military professional who attended my seminar, I would like for you to know that I will be giving you a heads up with this question and in reference to the conversation that we had afterwards. But Dan, do you have any
Okay.
other thoughts and anything else you'd like to add to it?
No, I'm limited with my thoughts, Frank. I only
I
have a certain
understand.
amount a day, and I think I've used them up already. So,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I feel responsible for it, Dan. I feel like I
Well,
did you
that's
Dan.
okay, but I'll have to recharge, and I'll have some other thoughts.
Okay.
Okay, later.
Okay, Dan. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Frank.
All right.
Okay, bye.